It's early morning again, and the news are bad. We have to abandon our position, because the Allies are dropping so many bombs on the German lines that we are struggling to hold the front line. So we are tactically retreating a few kilometers and wait to see where the enemy breaks through. The grenadiers are staying in their holes, and only one tank destroyer is remaining in the position. We're getting ready to pack our things so that as soon as the marching order comes, we can quickly relocate. A senior sergeant from the tank destroyers comes to me and asks excitedly if he can borrow some personnel. I just said I don't have any men to spare. He's supposed to hold the position, but he's missing a man in his vehicle. He needs a loader. Well, the platoon leader has to decide that. Shortly thereafter, he comes back and reports that I have to give up a man. Well, would you look at that? We are moving back and I'm supposed to leave my people here. What if the enemy counterattacks? Am I supposed to load myself? Or how does the platoon leader imagine that? But well, order is order. I call Rudolf and explain the situation. He grins at me and nods. Just as a loader, Rudy, no heroics. He waves, grabs his stuff, and goes with the tank destroyers. I ask the senior sergeant how long they're supposed to stay there. Until sunset. Then they come back as soon as possible. An anti-tank gun emplacement with one tank destroyer. That's not a lot. But perhaps nothing will happen here after all. We're pulling back and moving slowly but steadily towards the rear. In a wooded area within a forester's house, we take shelter. Helmut's arm doesn't look good. The medic has sewn it up, but you can tell it's worse than it seems. But I can't give away my gunner as well. After everything is stowed and we have some rest, we do a big wash at a small stream. Everything seems quiet here, and we can relax for the day. In the evening, things get busy again. The armored personnel carrier and the tank destroyer return. It looks a bit silly to be honest, but when it hits, well, we've seen what happened to the Brits. I was glad Rudy was back. He climbed out of the tank destroyer and came over to us with a sooty face. Helmut immediately asked if he would like to jump into the stream as well. No. First a sip from the secret stash. Then it would be okay. The senior sergeant of the tank destroyer came over to me and thanked me again for the personal support. Well, you can always use a good loader, I just said. The senior sergeant just laughed, shook Rudy's hand, gave him back a pack of cigarettes and left. Why did he laugh, Rudy? What did you do? Rudy started talking. So, you guys were gone for about an hour and we were sitting in the tank destroyer. Then came the report about enemy scouts, probably wheeled vehicles on the approach. I didn't want to push myself forward and waited for orders. In the meantime, the commander questioned me about where I had been and why my face was so battered. I told him that I'd been gunner for almost 3 years and am now being used as a loader for the time being. He listened carefully and said that his gunner had never been in combat and was very nervous. Without further ado, I was put on the optics. I gave him the heads up that my eyes weren't 100% yet. It doesn't matter, said the senior sergeant. Citizens here aren't as great as they were in Russia. The gunner, Egon was his name, was overjoyed to switch to the right side. I quickly put my hands on the adjustment wheels, made a quick adjustment, adjusted my seat as well, and I was ready. After 20 minutes, the grenadiers reported a reconnaissance vehicle that had driven out of the small farmstead at a distance of 700 meters. But it wasn't fast-moving. In fact, it stopped and they searched the area. Either they had nerves of steel, or they didn't know we were there. Wait, the commander said, and the vehicle right in my sight. The order to fire was given, and the shell was already on its way. Shortly after, it slammed into the ground right next to the vehicle. Damn it, the gun is pulling a bit to the right. The previous gunner had already loaded the next shell, and the enemy vehicles started to move. I adjusted the aim with the new data, The order to fire was given, and the shell hit the reconnaissance vehicle, tearing it into two. Oh boy, there's sure to be more coming. Luckily, we didn't have a muzzle brake on the barrel, so no dust could be stirred up and betray our position. The vehicle was hit and burning. The next shell was loaded. It didn't take long before you could see infantry in the tree line. The commander reported it, and we hoped for artillery shells in the area. But nothing. No artillery to be heard. Only tank engines got louder, and then there was silence again. No more movement. They're probably having a lunch now, the driver said. I didn't trust it. After an hour, a few fighter bombers came flying again and fired widely into the trees to our left. Only there was nobody there. They hadn't seen us. A few hours might have passed, and now things got busy again. We had eaten something in between, but we hadn't gotten out of the tank destroyer. And now I really had to go. No chance, the Brits are coming. Quickly, I took an empty tin can and relieved myself. And then 2 tanks, as I recognized them as the heavy Churchill tanks, pushed out of the bend and rolled forward. Those were real chunks, but also something to crack. My target was the left one first. There was also a small cannon to be seen, so a command vehicle. I had clearance to shoot and was supposed to fire at will. Well, let's go. The shell was loaded, and I aimed with the appropriate offset at the joint between the turret and the hull. I fired, and the glowing shell hit the turret front at full force. But it kept rolling. Aim lower. Second shot loaded, and the next piece of glowing iron dug deep into the belly of the enemy tank. It stopped immediately. The hatches flew open, and smoke and flames shot out from the inside. Target change. We didn't have to turn the tank. The aiming angle just managed it. The gun was clear and loaded. I aimed and hit the second one right on the left track, but it didn't turn far enough to show me its side. It was now standing at an angle to us and didn't offer a good target. One more shot. Then we were getting out, the commander said. I took my time, aimed carefully, and the shell hit the Churchill one more time. It also stopped. The turret didn't turn anymore, but nobody got out either. We've done our part. Reverse and get out of this position. We rushed off and went 3 kilometers further back to our alternate position. There we waited for the infantry, and when the men were finally with us, a line of Pak 40 guns was set up next to us. I had meanwhile forgotten my tin can, and of course, it had tipped over. The others didn't like that very much, but the joy about the successfully repelled attack, the 2 kills, and the rings on the gun outweighed it. But it really stank of urine in the tank. Well, that's the whole story, said Rudy. Enough talk. I'm really hungry. Helmut looked at Rudy and beamed. 2 kills and then in a tank destroyer too. Hats off. Apparently, your eyes aren't as bad as the doctors think. Or I'm just lucky, said Rudy. I grinned to myself and was glad that everything had worked out well. In the evening, there was a situation report with the platoon leaders, and I had myself taken there on a sidecar motorcycle. Of course, the enemy night shift was also active here. The 10-kilometer journey turned into a 45-minute ride with air over us and shortcuts through wooded areas. The meeting was sobering. High losses in men and material. Tank breakdowns that could not be repaired and were then blown up during the retreat. Constant attacks on the supply units, difficult evacuations of the wounded. It was despairing. But there were also bright spots. The neighboring divisions were fighting hard and relentless against the Anglo-Americans. The SS division would not be pushed aside and held their position even against the strongest enemy pressure. There were sections where the Allies attacked 5 to 6 times and still didn't get through. Then the enemy air force came, artillery was added wherever possible, but even on the next attack they didn't get through. These were men who had been hardened in the years of fire the Red Army and were not impressed by anything the Americans or English could throw at them. But woe betide if the dam breaks somewhere. Then we will all have to shift into reverse. It was dark when the driver brought me back. Helmut was feeling unwell. And I just said, if it wasn't better tomorrow, I would have to send him to the infirmary. Here, we were safe for now, and hopefully the night would be quiet. I fell into restless sleep and dreamed of home, the pretty girls there, and that one day we would perhaps leave all this madness behind us.